What's up, guys? What's going down?
What's going on? Good.
Yeah, so we were talking about these groups, all of these radical groups that we're seeing here, how the police are standing down while people are pretty much going after other people. I've seen things where Antifa is trying to guide traffic. I mean, this is just crazy. So we're just kind of getting into this. So this all started with Christian, so this is all his fault, by the way, that this topic came up.
I just finished watching that American Horror Story cult season that was the newest one that they have on Netflix. But they kind of talk about like these groups that they all dress alike, and it's a lot of cult personality, mind control kind of stuff. And it's funny because that series came out last year, I guess, and it's predicting exactly what's happening now, which, of course, FX, I believe that's Fox, with the Turner Broadcasting. So it's interesting how they were able to almost predict what's going on right now, and I just so happen to be watching it a couple of months after the fact. I'm very wary of all of this, and I think it's interesting how Antifa was, it seems, like a grassroots movement when I was looking at them back, I'd say about 3-4 years ago under Obama, and they were kind of the radicals and, definitely clashing a lot with the police. And now that we have Trump in office, these Proud Boys, which were organized and founded by that Gavin fella, co-founder of Vice Media, and a friend of mine, in the punk scene, he actually is from Canada, and he was in similar circles up there in Ottawa, and said that he was, lead singer of a punk band. He sent me like a video, really interesting. They were called Anal something, really offensive stuff. He had like a fake penis, uncircumcised, and they circumcise it on stage, and it's like a bar kind of thing. And I think it's funny how now he's like button-up button-up polo to the top, very straight-laced, talking about how, these kids need to pull their pants up. I honestly think that he's playing a character. I've seen him a couple times take over for Alex Jones on the InfoWars show, and it just seems so over the top, and I don't know. And people are, these Proud Boys are really diehard, like really about him, like it's like a cult. I can see this guy maybe running for Senate or something, just like an American Horror Story cult, in the next couple of years, ramping them up, and then he's going to have this army of numbskulls behind him, and it's very worrisome. And now it's interesting that you're saying that the police are standing down to Antifa, but the Proud Boys are, kind of like taking control of them. It all seems like just different fraction of deep state versus the not-so-deep state, I guess you can call it, and a bunch of different COINTELPRO movements that are kind of having a weird kind of Cold War on the streets. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, the whole thing seems staged to me. Brendan?
Yeah.
Yeah, a couple years ago when they were having a lot of, like Oakland port got shut down, like around that time, you'd see at night down in Oakland on the highways, they would have like road shows just going on, or just doing donuts and spinning out. No, that's not quite the same, but like from what I've seen going to the Grove and stuff, people, you get a line of cops and you get people that are just acting, and then you have genuine people interspersed, and everything is for show. That's my perspective.
Do you think that I think in all of these groups there of course are people that genuinely believe that they're part of this revolution, this radical movement that's really affecting social change. I mean, just like how Hillary supporters thought that, like, oh, we're going to have a woman in office, this is going to be a great thing for women and women's rights, and that's really, you know, the war drum that they're beating and stuff. What percentage do you guys think, you know, the ballpark here, of these groups is it like just a couple of guys at the top that, you know, they're feds of some sort and they're running, you know, this thing, or do you think like a lot of these guys are part of this thing? What do you think?
Well, I know that you walk around in certain parts of the area, like you walk around in Oakland, and there are, you know, Antifa signs everywhere, just hanging up in people's front windows in their houses. I think there's a lot of people that really are into it, absolutely. A lot of people probably put into it, absolutely. I think if it is like a movement for groups of people on the ground for an army, that's a great way to recruit it. If you have it on TV and the police are standing down, which they do all the time, and they don't let, you know, they don't let themselves get hurt, but they don't really stop other stuff from happening. They do stand down. I have seen that.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, that really bothers me. That really bothers me because that's what makes it seem scripted. That's what makes it seem staged, is that this is all part of their program. It's their program to see how we react to it. Yeah. And it's all about our engagement or our disengagement of it, and that's how they kind of, you know, are gauging things. But it's moving beyond that now, where people are seeing way beyond any of that drama, any of that fakeness. So many good people are just turning off. They're zoning out. You know, they don't want anything to do with this because they see what's going on. But we do need some really good people to really stand up and say, you know what, there's something wrong here. Let's see what we can do to make it better. Let's see what we can do to fix this. Why are these groups fighting? What are they fighting for? What do they stand for? The biggest thing for me is when they were wearing masks. Now we see that they're not always wearing that. So it's getting even worse. It's getting closer to home, and everything is just about resistance. It's not about peace. It's not about love, and that's what bothers me.
It's not about stopping the war, or any war. It's personal.
That's what we lost our focus as people. You know, towards the end of the Bush administration, people were ready to revolt, like in the Obama deception. When KRS-One, he talks about we were on the verge of revolution, and then they put a black guy in office, and then everyone just like, oh, well, you can't talk bad about the black guy, so everyone just, like, that was it. Like, the establishment knows, you know, they're always thinking 7 steps ahead, and right when we're about to be like, that's it, I'm done, screw these wars, screw this TSA stuff, I don't want the police state, I don't want the marshal, I don't want all these agencies, then you put a black guy in and that's it. And then people were starting to get fed up with Obama because it was business as usual, and he was continuing to perpetuate the Patriot Act too, and all that stuff, National Defense Authorization Act. And now, you know, then it was like, okay, well, it's going to be a woman that's business as usual, or it's going to be this, you know, this very flamboyant, you know, a guy, which, you know, I got to admit, like, at first I was like, no, I don't like the fact that the Clintons and the Trumps were kind of buddy-buddy. There's lots of photos and lots of different things they did together. But, you know, so, I mean, these past 2 years under Trump, I've had like a raised eyebrow, like, he's going to turn on us any second and this and that. But I'm not going to lie, like, you know, I'm a level-headed person, and I got a lot of heat. You know, Sacred Owls wasn't as popular with the InfoWars community and stuff in the past 2 years, and it's interesting how we've actually been more leaning towards, I mean, we're libertarians and nothing's changing that, but it's funny how we ended up being in Orlando, Florida with Pulse and everything, getting a lot more support from unlikely places, like, of course, the LGBT community, which, we support people's rights to do anything. So we're in a very, precarious spot, I think, where, something that we're going to say is going to piss off every group. So it's hard to get support that kind of can see past the matrix of all these different, because what's going on is there's all these subculture groups that, they have all these rules, and you're going to break 2 of the rules, like of the 10 Commandments of any of those groups, if you are a libertarian and you simply just want everyone to have the right to do whatever they want to do as long as they're not hurting anybody. It's funny how, and then then everyone just shits all over the libertarians, and I mean, I think Gary Johnson is impotent personally as a political figure. I don't think he's very effective. Of course, I agree with him and a lot of the people on the Libertarian Party's platform, but I feel like we need drastic change and new people, new blood, just like the Democrats and the Republicans are hurting. I mean, they're so behind the Democrats that their front guy is creepy Biden. Pedophile, groping children in public, gross, old, creepy Biden. That's their #1 guy. Are you kidding me? I'm going off on a tangent here, but my point is it's kind of hard to, a lot of, what's scaring me, honestly, is that a lot of people in the truth movement seem to be aligning themselves with these Proud Boys and chauvinism and, and what I call misogyny, woman belongs in the kitchen kind of bullshit. I want to empower women. I want equality. I want, them to make as much as guys. I would support I voted for Cynthia McKinney when she ran for the Green Party. I think women can do things, and I would love to see a libertarian female run for president, run for Congress and stuff like that. We need more third-party alternative people that have, our ideals. What do you guys think about that?
So would I. So would I. I would love that. I am a libertarian. The older I get, I kind of see how society is, and I wonder what the hell is it going to look like after 2020, and 5G is everywhere.
After 5G rolls out, we're all living in a microwave. We're just going to explode. Yeah. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, right? So, I mean, geez.
You think it's bad now with the fluoride in the water and the Prozac in the food and all that crap? They're just going to cook us inside out. They're just going to get dumber. You just see like a bunch of people walking around with their tongues sticking out, just retarded, totally brain dead.
There's so many groups just primed, and they're programmed on Facebook, they're programmed on the news, they're programmed everywhere. They're programmed in school now. I mean, they always have them, but I mean, politically, I think that we need intelligent, rational, calm people to find historical evidence of lies that are going on and have been for ever since always, and we just show them. Yesterday I was able to find a lakeside chat from 1967 that Richard Nixon gave in less than 2 minutes of just searching on the National Archives website. I've never seen it before. I look this stuff up every night. I've never seen it. It was just there. And
yeah, you've been throwing down.
I think we live in such an age now that it's impossible to keep history away. And the right people have to exploit that, I think, in order to get results in the country. That won't be complete genocide.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's my archives.com. I was like, you know, we had federaljack.com for close to 10 years, and we worked with wearechange.org. Before Federal Jack, we had Resistance Arsenal, and we've always had these websites, you know, like a lot of other websites. There's so many that, you know, we're following things, we're syndicating stuff. Infowars.com, of course, they've been doing their thing for so long. But of course, Alex Jones turns people off because he is so erratic and emotional, and of course, that's what gets him a lot of his viewers and stuff, but it actually turns, he has millions of viewers, he would have billions of followers if he simply toned it back, was more eloquent, and you know, then you have people like David Icke, which have that, they're a little bit more refined and things like that, but then they lose a lot of people with the shape-shifting reptilians. You know, then you have Jesse Ventura, which is somewhere kind of in the middle there, and I love, you know, Jordan Maxwell, we've talked about him. You know, William Cooper, he was amazing. You know, we need the best of all of these guys, and, you know, and we need, you know, to kind of be like, all right, we need less of this and more of that, and, you know, groom our leaders. We need to have think tanks just like the elite do, where right now, I mean, we're doing it. You know, we're talking, you know, we're shooting ideas around, and what works, what doesn't work. We should have focus groups where we bring in different demographics and get their honest opinions on what works, what doesn't work. You know, with Dark Docs, we were like, all right, well, these websites, they're getting a lot of interest, they're getting supporters, but a lot of people, they're lazy, of course. So, I mean, it's hard enough for them to be like, all right, go to this website and search for this thing, or, you know, just look at whatever's on the front page. You know, what does everyone want to do? They just want to, like, have their jaw dropped open and just be scrolling through stuff on a streaming site. Like, that's where we're at. Just thumbnails where, oh, that looks good, click on that thumbnail, and then just watch it and binge watch it until they knock out. You know, because they're tired from work, they finally got their kids to sleep. Like, you have them for a couple of hours. You know, that's exactly why we made Dark Docs pretty much look like a darker version of Netflix, where whether it's a document or an audio file, you know, it's a thumbnail. You click on it, and then boom, it's there. But the ability to download it is our biggest thing, because all these streaming services, when your Wi-Fi goes down, when, you know, they declare martial law and they pull everything, you have these boxes that are bricks. They don't do anything. Your Roku is not going to do anything for you unless you have it hooked into an external hard drive. You know, so like that's why, you know, the information warfare is in, you know, the freedom of information and the accessibility, being able to get this information to people and make them want to have it. Make them want to store it, and in that way, when someone's like, "Oh no, that's fake news," because I guarantee you, after they purged Alex Jones, now they've purged over, what was it, like 800 plus different sites, including Punk Rock Libertarian, including the Free Thought Project, pages. It's just the beginning. They're going to continue to block and purge off of all the social media sites. And then once they get what they call net neutrality, which is really just an Orwellian Trojan horse, there's nothing neutral about what they're trying to do, they're going to make it all just be like, you know, every website is a subscription service, you have to pay for it, and they're going to throttle bandwidth, or simply just block the sites that aren't part of your, you know, internet service provider's network, and that's going to mean, you know, resisttyranny.com is going to be down, you know, Dark Docs, sacredhallows.com, and of course Infowars is going to be the first one. All these sites, you know, are going to go down, and then that's it. We lost the info war. The only way to get the information that we're showing that is going to be blocked on YouTube, on all of these social media sharing sites, is going to be whatever you already downloaded before D-Day. I don't know. That's my prediction. What do you guys feel about that?
Well, they definitely are purging pretty good, huh? Yeah, I was wondering how long Dark Docs would be there.
I think
once we hit 100,000 likes, they're going to pull us. Like right now, we're small potatoes. we got 1,600 likes. That's nothing, but we got that 1,600 likes in only a couple of months, so not bad.
It's like they need an excuse to censor us, and then they put in place certain people who can accomplish that goal. Alex Jones was one of the first people that really helped me kind of wake me up out of that trance. But, the Alex Jones of 1999 is a different Alex Jones of 2009, 2018. I have not listened to InfoWars in about 5 or 6 years, and I don't like it. I don't like where they are. I don't like where they're going. I don't like that they tell me one thing and then I go and research and I find out that it's something totally different. I don't like that. And that's what I'm worried about with the common person. That's what I like about Dark Docs. That's what I like about Tales of Terror. Issue 1, this is the real terror. I mean, these are the real issues. There are real issues that we face. And it does tie into the Bohemian Grove. It ties in to pedophilia. It ties into the real tales of terror, which are exactly what I'm seeing here, reading this comic book.
Yeah. Man, thank you so much. I mean, I always loved, Tales from the Crypt, horror films, horror comics, and I think what I liked about them is kind of that filter where I knew that the world was fucked up. And by having something that's like it has this like filter, which in the comics is usually something fictional. It kind of makes you feel like cozy at home, but at the same time, like you feel safe because it's fiction. And of course, I love artwork. I love graphic novels and things like that. And doing the music and stuff and how we tie, we made Sacred Owls this kind of thing where it's theatrical, but it's non-fiction, and that's what we really try to drive home. All of our songs, I mean, we have some songs of, like in Government Sponsored Terrorism about, Death Witch, Charles Bronson series where, it's a fictional story, but boy would we love, sometimes when terrible things are happening and you have the mafia and stuff, we hope that there's a vigilante. In fact, we got caught spreading fake news by accident, and it was an impulse share. Sometimes I share things with Dark Docs, and I didn't fact check them. I'm just on my phone, and I'm like, whoa, that sounds crazy. And then I leave it to what No Agenda podcast calls like the troll room, which is essentially everyone up in our comments, and they'll fact check false me and then send the link. I'll be like, I'll edit, be like, all right, so this is fake news, but we're gonna leave it up, because there was this one thing about this, vigilante pedophile hunter that was like mutilating bodies and like leaving a trail of the dead, and I'm like, oh my God, it's happening. I got too excited and I didn't check my facts. But I think it's good to have like this real-time transparency, and that's what I call, what's Federal Jack, pretty much wanted to do is like open source intelligence, where, if we share something, it's not like, hey, I'm coming down from, Holy Land and being like, this is the ultimate truth, like so many people like Alex Jones and, everyone does, where we're a bit more humble. We'll be like, I don't have all the answers. We're looking at this stuff with you, but we're actually looking, we're digging, and if we find, something false, all right, well then who shared this false thing and what was the agenda? And that opens up a whole new dialogue, a whole new investigation. And with Tales of Terror, we wanted to have this like full immersion experience where, you can tell someone to read the Franklin cover-up, and, some people that are a bit more academically minded and more bookwormy, I guess, they'll actually sit there and read this very dense, very dark, very terrible, book, full of really important, fact-checked information, witness testimony, and FBI investigation reports and stuff. But to be able to, kind of summarize a portion of a chapter on 4 pages in big, bold text with photos from crime scenes, it almost turns it into this kind of like true crime film noir kind of thing, and it literally puts it in your face. and then when you put like a soundtrack to it, you know, we spent a lot of care and time on Conspiracy of Silence because we didn't want to be insulting or exploitative of the victims. But at the same time, we didn't want to redact anything and sugarcoat the story like a lot of other you know, outlets, like what was it, the True Detective series kind of did, you know, or a House of Cards on Netflix, where they kind of change things. No, we're going to name names. We're going to call people out. If there's a photo, we're going to show it. And even like the curse words that were bleeped out in the Franklin cover-up, we unbleeped them in the comic book because that's the real thing. Like, stop bleeping things. You know, we need to show the whole thing, and we're continuing that tradition with the Dark Docs videos that we're starting to put out, and you know, we're just starting with where we're exposing the creators of Rick and Morty, who still to this day on their Vimeo channel have the very first pilot episode of Rick and Morty, where the whole episode rotates around the child licking the doctor's balls and jerking him off in order for the time travel machine to work, and they show it in graphic detail. In addition to that, they also have another cartoon called Extraordinary Tales, where they are literally mutilating and cutting up children and talking about how the FBI is going to get them and this and that. And, you know, but like they're doing it in a way with like kind of children's instruments playing in the background, where I could imagine, you know, a kid being on Vimeo, you know, oh, Rick and Morty, cool, like, and watching this stuff. And, you know, if the parents are driving or something, it just sounds like some crazy kids cartoon. You don't think about it. There's another one from the same creators that is called Two Girls and One Cup for PBS Kids. And it's not for PBS Kids, but they use the logo and everything. And we're actually going to kind of troll them and get a lot of soccer moms pissed off and believing that this is really a PBS Kids thing, and contacting PBS Kids to take this show off. And then when they're like, this isn't one of our shows, they're going to find out the source and see that they're using their copyrighted logo without permission. And if they aren't corrupted, they should be sending them a cease and desist once we do this next week. If they're not, then we know that they're complicit and that this is part of a larger agenda in order to normalize pedophilia with children. Also, I find it funny that in these videos there's another series where Sarah Silverman is one of the characters, and then go figure, on the Sarah Silverman show a couple of years ago, her and Patton Oswalt had a skit where he is, you know, they have these vans and it makes them creepy and want to, you know, do sexual things with children. And the skit's riddled with all sorts of occult symbols like spiral lollipops, checker floors, and all the you know, the textbook occult you know, symbols. It's all connected. I believe that these people, and of course then Sarah Silverman, supportive of Hillary Clinton, Clinton Foundation, John Podesta, it's all connected. The more you look into these people and their operations and the jokes that they make, the skits that they make, the media that they push, it's all part of this agenda. And now you have Big Mouth, which we've been kind of mouthing off about lately, you know, where there's an episode in season 2 now where the girl's talking more and more to her vagina. The vagina is like animated and talking. This is a little 11-year-old girl's vagina that's a character on this. And now it's TV mature. It's not for kids. But you know that you know, people are just letting their kids watch this stuff. There's an episode where all the teachers are naked at a YMCA, and they frame the whole thing about, you know, these children, you know, being uncomfortable with like their body and being anti-body shaming and things like that. Which of course, I think, you know, people need to love their bodies, be comfortable with their bodies, no matter what shape and size you are, you know, and all that good stuff. I'm all for that. However, I see no reason to have like naked adults and children, and it's all cool, you know, and it's not. You know, I'm sorry, and it's funny, like sometimes saying this stuff, like, I'm like, am I being a prude? You know, like, I have people kind of like, you're blowing this way out of proportion.
No.
And people in the comments also saying, like, oh, like, you know, you're the one that's sick for, like, going there and, like, trying to draw these conclusions. Get off the dark web, creep. And I'm like, no, I'm sick of this. Everywhere I look, I see someone trying to normalize this pedophilia shit, and I'm sick of it. I have an 8-year-old, and is this the world I'm bringing him up in? Absolutely not.
Yeah, we see way too much of this, I think. Way too much of this where people just don't want to look at this. You know, they don't want to think about children being hurt. They don't want it in their face. And that's fine, but the problem is it's happening. It's happening, and somebody has to do something. Somebody has to stand up, and there's many people that are standing up, and it's always the common person. So if there is a way for the common person to be able to reach people, to reach more people, I think that's always a great thing. That's what I love, Christian. That's what I love about your comic book here. I mean, if I can get somebody to just read the first few pages, I think they will be hooked.
Oh, thanks, man. I mean, the plan with a Conspiracy of Silence in particular, our goal, you know, and of course it's rather ambitious, and we have a lot of other projects, but we want the story arc. There's 22 chapters in the Franklin cover-up, and each one of them is packed full of shocking stories. We would let, you know, we took chapter 1, and of course the craziest thing in chapter 1 right out of the gates is the Paul Benassi story. So that's like what we grabbed for the song Conspiracy of Silence. Started all off in chapter 1, the Paul Benassi testimony. We called it Fear and Loathing in Sacramento. Kind of a little joke about, you know, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, because he said that Hunter Thompson was picked up in Las Vegas and filmed these snuff films, you know, in the big redwood trees were men in hoods with pentagrams and the 5 colors that I see on the back of all these, you know, I find a lot of these Freemasons here in Florida have that same pentagram with the 5 colors. You know what I'm talking about? It has like some like Latin on each of the stars of the pentagram. It's yellow, white, red, blue, and green, I think. Anyways, they mentioned that Paul Benassi mentioned it in his testimony, and you know, so we grabbed that for issue number 1, and it's gotten mixed reviews. Some people love it, like you guys. Some people hate it, and then I always tell them, good, you should, because it's meant to you know, we put that warning on the front cover not as a joke, as, you know, we always try to like warn people, even when we play live shows, we have a, you know, warning, this is a restricted film, this is for 18 and over, I wouldn't, you know, show this to children. You know, I even have mixed feelings about like my son being around when we have band practice and stuff, and I've done a very, you know, kind of, I think, a decent job in terms of framing like anything that he does see, that, you know, what it comes down to is there's bad people doing bad things, and we want to be good people, and we want to, you know, get the bad guys in trouble, you know, like,
that's right.
Story short. And it's the truth. I mean, you know, we do it in a very theatrical way, I guess, similar to Alex Jones, where, you know, we have characters almost like Christian Coffins is this, you know, kind of, you know, rugged Wolverine vigilante kind of character in our music videos, and, you know, we're working on DVD, and that's going to kind of play out, and we might even have like an animated comic version of Sacred Owls that points and Tales of Terror and things like that. You know, then we have Ariel Burial, that's this kind of like, you know, a secret agent, you know, of open source intelligence that, you know, she doesn't work, we all work for ourselves.
Yeah, and you know, so it's a hard balancing act with all those things to try to, you know, make something seem very interesting and engaging and kind of superhero-esque, but at the same time be serious and be like, you know, want to bore people by being too serious, but you also don't want to be clown shoes Alex Jones over the top where you're totally discrediting yourself to the point where a lot of people think that you're a misinformation or disinformation agent of some sort, which I'm still on the fence about with him. But, moving forward, we're working on Tales of Terror issue number 2. We're looking at early spring, Easter for issue number 2, and we're bringing on new artists, graphic artists, and musicians to do very, very different things for like the second half. But we are planning on doing Conspiracy of Silence Chapter 2, about Chapter 2. There's a lot of stuff in there, so I'm still trying to dial in what we're going to focus on and all that. But I can tell you that Ariel's going to have a new song, Good Gal with a Gun, which is going to be it's going to be a kind of surfy number about, about chicks, and empowering women, and really supporting the Second Amendment with women, because I don't feel like there's enough, serious, legitimate. You'll see in memes every now and then, like, this chick's badass with, an AK, or, something like that. Just firing off and things like that. But no, I want like smart, I want like Fox Force 5 from Pulp Fiction, but like for real, I want just like really badass, and that's what we loved about, Quentin Tarantino's Death Proof, where, there's this guy, preying on women and stuff, and then of course Chick Habit was like the theme song, and we just loved that, and we thought it was really funny that, go figure, we put out this comic last Halloween, and then shortly thereafter, Quentin Tarantino gets called out about, that newly resurfaced audio from the Howard Stern show back in 2008, where he was defending Roman Polanski back in '77 with that 12-year-old girl at Jack Nicholson's house in Beverly Hills, where, he was like, party girls, they're asking for it. They all want a piece of, Hollywood and this, very shitty attitude. And even Howard Stern was like, no, and if I would have heard that audio, I would have, wrote Tarantino off a long time ago. And he did apologize. He did backpedal. He apologized to the victim, and he was like, man, like times have changed, the Me Too movement. And, of course, he was sticking it because those films, Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs, all the Grindhouse stuff, that was, brought to you by your friends at the Weinstein Company. Go figure. And then like, raped by him, and, along with Uma Thurman, Kill Bill and Pulp Fiction, of course, and so all of that unraveled. Moving forward, I'm actually interested to know what you guys think. I think we talked a little bit about the whole Anthony Bourdain thing. He was dating that one woman, I forget her name, and she was the daughter of like a Luciferian occult leader. And she, claims to be a Satanist. Her Instagram is riddled with all sorts of weird occult, satanic, pentagrams and blood and, ridiculous things. And even some of his, posts were very odd. But then right before he died, he started calling out the Weinsteins, the Clinton Foundation, the Podestas, and then he ended up dying. I'm thinking he's one of the Clinton murders, personally.
When you talk about people trying to break away from that system, it's not easy, right? Because they've already been blackmailed. They're already part of that system, and if they do anything to go against those people, the people already have something on them. So when we're talking about children, and I know all three of us, really have, we want to make sure that we can do whatever we can do to protect these children, not just our children, but all children. And the Hollywood model that we see is all about going after children. It's all about creating them and keeping them So some of these people that are in their 40s, even 50s, even 60s, these could all be victims too. Now, they might be culprits, and they might be guilty of committing crimes against other people, but at some level, you know, these people, I mean, to be so sick to do some of these things that they do to kids, it's hard to believe that they aren't victims themselves, that they aren't part of a bigger program. And it's all about getting to who the hell is creating this program and how do we stop them. Go ahead, guys.
Yeah, no, and you're absolutely right. I believe that, you know, of course, I don't like to speak in absolute, so everybody or nobody, but I definitely think a lot of people, you know, like Kevin Spacey. I believe he was a victim of sexual assault, you know, throughout his early life. I believe, you know, definitely Paul Benassi, you know, his testimony about what happened to him as a child, and then they, as, you know, he got older, they used him to lure other children. He was a bait, you know, person, and this is all, you know, cult strategy 101. If you're going to have a cult, mind control cult, any kind of a religious cult or anything, political cults, you know, there's all different kinds of ideologies, all different kinds of agendas, reasons to control other people. Some people do it for the thrill of it, like I believe, you know, Charles Manson, things like that, you know, or it's a hybrid of that and, you know, the lust for power, the feeling of, you know, controlling over other people and what they can do for you, and make sure that they're loyal. A lot of these people are, you know, they have delusions of grandeur. They're very paranoid usually, and they need to make sure that, you know, they live their life like a chess game where you're thinking, you know, 6 steps, 7 steps ahead, and oh well, if they do this, I got them with that, and if they do that, you know, I know where their kids go to school. Like, this is the mindset of, you know, like, they're like, you know, like drug czars and criminal minds. You have to make sure, like, oh, I'm not going to get caught, you know, I always have an ace in the hole, you know, kind of thing. And that, you know, that is their lust for power, and that's how you do it. And doing the most extreme, unbelievable things is the most brilliant way to hide in plain sight. Abusing children, human trafficking, poisoning, you know, people. These are things that are so unthinkable to everyday people. I honestly believe the majority, more than 90% of the human race throughout history has inherently been just good. Hey man, I just want to live my life and be able to feed and shelter my family and maybe have some leisure time to relax, have some good sex with whoever I'm in love with, and that's it. You know, that's all a lot of people want, but it's the people that lust to control, to conquer, to dominate, people that, you know, they build armies to go against other countries and take what's theirs, and you know, what we call nation building is very Orwellian. It's very you know, it's double speak, because we're not building nations, we're tearing down and stealing nations. We're not freeing people, we're enslaving them. We're occupying their land. We are taking what isn't ours. And you know, it's a tale as old as time, and I think it's in the hard part that we face as people opposed to this, in this you know, I like to call, like, technological renaissance, where now we have this global community, we have the internet, we can actually point to a thing in a supercomputer hooked to the internet in our hand and be like, look, this is happening. And, you know, we can build these websites, and we have the videos, we're uploading FTP, and, you know, all that. No one else could have done this before. What did you have, like a typewriter, you know, a printing press, you know, and then everyone's like, you just typed that, you know, like, that's not real. That's, you know, that's before Photoshop. It's like, you just, you edited that in some way, and, you know, now it's a lot easier to kind of spot that kind of stuff.
That makes me think of the photograph of a lynching at the Bohemian Grove in 1909 that is very easy to find on the internet. That's there. And you zoom in on them, or you tweak the colors, you zoom in, you look at him, you see his face. He's got eyes and a nose and lips. That's a person. They refer to that picture as that's a mannequin. That's what the club's official stance on those photos are. But that's a mannequin. That's 1909. If we don't adequately look at rumors of crimes or known crimes by the elite, then that's a true disservice to mankind. I mean, I don't want to call them out, but the Bohemian Grove Action Network began with Mary Moore. You know, they spent years and decades compiling research, and I have to say I love that research. It's really powerful. It's great. But they always would steer clear of any crime, any talk of crime, because you couldn't prove it, which is important for anybody trying to make a case. You got to prove stuff, or at least have reasonable evidence, you know. But,
sure.
You know, Alex Jones goes in there, and they make this video, and they release the cremation of care, that is a hell of a video. That video is something else. Yep. And then he talks about, well, that's Moloch. 100% certain that's Moloch, and they're burning babies or whatnot. Now, I look at this 1909 photo, and I see a lynching of a black person surrounded by well-to-do white people, a lot of them even in drag. And, okay, I can say, well, who the hell is this guy? That's not a mannequin. Maybe I can hire a forensics expert to research that, you know, in a photo. No, that's definitely a human being right there. That's something that is circumstantial evidence in a way to say, hey, no, we really got to look at Paul Benassi. We got to see what's going on here. So I don't agree with Mary Moore and her group in that everybody that leans that way is an Alex Jones sycophant, which a lot of times is labeled to us in newspapers because we go to the Grove every year. We're not. We're just people, and we're sick of this shit, and we just want to expose and attract people to come and stand with us against this kind of thing.
Yeah, I could not believe. I mean, you know, this year at Bohemian Grove, you know, it was Sacred Owl's 10-year anniversary. Our logo is literally their logo crossed out, and that's kind of a nod and a wink to, you know, our punk rock influences. We're big supporters of Bad Religion, and you know, I mean, we have a lot of Christian and evangelical friends and supporters, and you know, we're very respectful of them and stuff. But we loved what Bad Religion stood for. It's like they're not really anti, you know, their logo is like the Christian cross crossed out, you know, but it was really more a symbol about groupthink, and that's what if you really listen to the lyrics, if you listen to Greg Graffin speak and stuff, he's actually pretty funny. He's a professor now at Yale, go figure. But his you know, his whole thing with that band, and if you listen to the lyrics, it's about, you know, people who claim to be religious and claim to be holier than thou art, and you know, they're, you know, and all that, better than you in some way. They're, you know, they're going behind the altar and having sex with children and putting on these robes and having these occult sacrifices and stuff. And then, you know, once they're done with their boys and burning crosses and, you know, being in the KKK or whatever, you know, gentlemen's groups or whatever the hell they want to call them, they'll put on their suits and they'll run for Senate, and you know, they'll have their wife and their perfect kids, and it's all an American illusion. You know, they have that song American Jesus. It's a facade. It's not you know, really what's going on. You have Ronald Reagan going to the Grove. You have the Bushes being in Skull and Bones. Their dad, Prescott Bush, is like a Nazi, bootlegger, mafia scumbag murderer. And that's the real American history. Bohemian Grove goes back to the 1800s, and I definitely believe that there's been real sacrifices. There's been they did round people up and set them on fire and dance around and jerk off on dead bodies and you name it. It doesn't surprise me at this point, based on victims of human trafficking's testimonies, which are in the hundreds at this point on my archives, and I keep coming across new cases, more MK Ultra stuff, more Monarch and Beta and sex kitten programming and all of that stuff involved in Hollywood. And and I think when it comes down, what really concerns me, yes, of course, that this stuff is really happening. There is hard evidence in terms of the testimonies. I consider hard evidence because, especially the Paul Benassi story, he was 14 years old when he gave this testimony in 1988. This was before the internet. This was before, as we know it, there was like military internet, and it was nothing that a 14-year-old was using in any way, shape, or form. There was no information of this kind on that, he was able to describe in great detail how to get, and even took John DeCamp, the writer of the Franklin cover-up, his attorney, which was, he was in politics. I believe it was like a congressman, and he was able to take him to the gates back in '88, which is there's no Google Maps. There was no. He had to have been there before to be able to get him there to the gates. Be like, yeah, they took me here from the Sacramento airport. We took this road and went up these winding, roads. And going there for the first time, to meet you guys, man, it was. I was beside myself. Now, granted, we just played a show in Las Vegas, which I've never been to Vegas before, and we were running on like fumes in terms of sleep, and we were just exhausted, red eye, white knuckling it, through the mountains, which I'm from Florida, so not used to driving through all that stuff, especially with our van loaded to the top with all of our gear and living supplies and a boat on top of it. And I thought I was going to fly off of a mountain, just delirious on my third 5-hour energy. And, getting to the gates, I was like, just thinking to myself, excited to see you guys in the gate for the first time, and I didn't know what was going to happen to me. I had my spy glasses on and hope it was recording, and I was just thinking, there's no way in hell that Paul Benassi could have taken John DeCamp to the gates of the Bohemian Grove if he's never been there before. There's no way. And the fact that he would be like, yeah, and men in robes, and they were burning things, and there was this big owl, and there's no way for him to know that. Alex Jones, when did he do that? That was like 96? Or that he put out Dark Secrets in Bohemian Grove. Do you guys remember the year?
I know it was in 2001, maybe. So
was it after 9/11? No, because he came out with the martial law 9/11 thing, like right after 9/11. I don't know. We'll look that up. But it was in maybe like late 90s. The point is, it wasn't 88. But what really bothers me is that, when I talk to everyday people and I'm like, all right, well, let's say they don't have real sacrifices. Let's say that, that Paul Benassi and all these other kids were lying. This didn't happen. It was just a freak thing. How do you guys still feel about your Christian conservative leaders, or so they say, going to the Bohemian Grove, wearing robes? Now, cross-dressing, it's what I don't care. Consenting adults, you want to be gay, as long as they're consenting, I don't see a crime. If you want to wear a dress, we live in Orlando, man. Like, people are, we got Pulse that happened, and now we're like Orlando strong. We're a very stronghold of LGBTQ people, and you know what? At the end of the day, the way I see it, with like the movement and everything, we're fighting the New World Order here and stuff. If an adult wants to do that, fine. Can we just get past that and fight the New World Order together, and and stop human trafficking and all that? And because every gay and transgender and queer and intersex and all of the spectrum of sexuality and stuff, no one I talk to supports pedophilia. None of them. Now, some of them, boy, did we get a backlash when last year, maybe a year and a half ago, we posted, we saw this video about this trans, like drag queen, I think he was like a 7 or 8-year-old, and he called himself Lactatia, and just, sassy, wearing a dress, bunch of makeup, high heels, little boy. And, the boy claims to be heterosexual, but didn't find out that he was totally all about this until, because his mom would, like, sit with him and watch RuPaul's Drag Race, like, binge watch it. And, after watching, he's seeing how glamorous, and kids love shiny, colorful things, and he's like, I could see kids watching this stuff and being like, I could do that, and then of course the very liberal, forward-thinking, sensitive parents of like that culture are like, yeah, I'm not going to stop. You want to wear a dress to school? Cool, whatever. And again, call me, and I had to really think about this, and I'm like, I love my gays, they love and respect what we're doing and stuff, and we have a mutual respect, but I had to be real with them, and I'm like, I'm not about this, I'm sorry, this to me is grooming children. First of all, drag queens and cross-dressing of this sort, it's one thing if you're just like, a boy dressed like a little girl, or a little girl dressed like a little boy. Like that's one thing that I might even be like, whatever, they'll either grow out of it, or maybe they might, be, I don't know, I can't judge. I'm not in that body. But, this is different. This is, taking them to drag shows with adults and drag, and, I've been, to shows like that. I've been to like burlesque shows. In the punk rock scene, it's all very kind of like, there'll be a punk rock band, and then there'll be like a cabaret dancer, and then there'll be a comedian, and we're all kind of like in the nightlife scene. So I've seen all kinds of stuff, and it's all 18 or 21 plus. It's for adults, and I have if I saw a little 6-year-old, even a 12-year-old, 14 even, at like a show where like chicks are stripping, you got cross dressers, you got like a bunch of people making out, and there's sexual stuff going on. I'm not about it. I'd be like, kid, where's your parent? Get the fuck out of here. This is not for kids. And I would see these videos with this Lactatia, and with his mom and stuff, and you'd have these older creepy dudes like leering at the child, like, oh yeah, it's hot, like, and I'm like, this is this is grooming. This is pedophilia, grooming. And sure enough, less than a year later, a video comes out where they're at some pageant kind of thing, and Lactatia's doing like a sexy kind of dance, sticking the butt out and stuff, and I'm like, this isn't okay. This is overly sexualizing children. And then meanwhile, you have Tom Hanks on the Jimmy Kimmel Show. I don't know if you saw that skit where he was joking about like, pageant dads and how like over the top, like toddlers and tiaras kind of thing with his actual daughter. And he has his daughter wearing this like, skimpy outfit, and like pretty much like stripper dancing on the stage to Poison's Talk Dirty to Me, that 80s, metal song. And it's like, yeah, you're joking about it, but you actually had to have your kid do that, and you're exploiting your child for comedy. And I really cannot believe that you're clearly speaking out against this happening. And then, of course, Rob Reiner and his daughter wins. And then, you know, Tom Hanks and Jimmy Kimmel are bent out of shape and, you know, verbally abusing their children, you know, because they didn't win and stuff like that. And everyone's laughing. It's all fun and games. Meanwhile, this is really happening. You have, like, Tasha wearing dresses and stuff and doing that same thing. And then you have everyone, you know, on the left, you know, all these liberals and stuff, you know, being like, oh, you, man, when Sacred Owls posted it, like, I'm like, you know, parents shouldn't be sitting down watching RuPaul's Drag Race with their kids. You know, I don't care. I'm fine with gay people. I'm fine with all of this. It has fucking nothing to do with your kids. It has nothing to do with acceptance. You know, stop pushing this shit in their face. Meanwhile, you have Planned Parenthood and other focus groups, again from the left, you know, pushing these sexual education courses where they are showing kids how to masturbate, showing kids how to, you know, put condoms. They don't use bananas anymore. They bring in a big old dildo, you know, and talking about, you know, all of these things that telling them how to safely engage in anal sex and things like that. And then again, like, they're pushing this on, like, early middle school, late elementary school. Like, they keep pushing it earlier and earlier. They're doing this in Britain. They've been doing that for years. That goes all the way back to the Jimmy Savile days and way before that, because you have to keep in mind that the Bohemian Grove, even though it's the 1800s, you know, we're a new country. They got the idea from the Bavarian groves and all the stuff over there in Europe, Western Europe and stuff like that, where fucking Dracula's been doing this shit since the 1st century. You know, they have big, you know, Baal and Moloch, you know, statues over there, which, by the way, again, I always have to remind people, and this is something that I made the mistake, even in our song New Day Rising, I say it's Lord Moloch that they're fighting for, which, you know, yeah, sure, I mean, you know, Moloch is the half man, half bull, where you sacrifice an effigy of a child or a child to the flames in order to get what you want and this and that. But in fact, the Owl of Bohemia is the Owl of Alexandria, and it's an Egyptian deal. It's not Bavarian or Babylonian. It's actually an Egyptian, you know, situation with the Owl of Bohemia and the whole cremation of care thing. But it's all the same shit. It's some fucking statue that you burn shit in front of in order to, you know, do some fake shit that, frankly, I don't think exists. But what pisses me off is that, you know, when I tell people this stuff, they're like, yeah, so what's the big deal? You know, that sounds kind of cool. You know, I want to wear a robe and, you know, dress and drag and fuck around. Like, this is where people's heads are at. They're like, we lost them. We lost a lot of them. You know, most average people, it's so crazy, and then we look so upset. You know, waving and hollering. You know, the sky is falling. And then all they see is Alex Jones, and they're like, oh, you guys are nuts. So they play devil's advocate because, you know, they're shrewd, and they go to Snopes.com, and they fact-check false everything, and Pizzagate's fake news, so what the fuck's your problem? And, you know, and they always play devil's advocate with me, and they're always just like, oh, so what's the big deal? Like, why are you so... Let them fucking do that out there. And I'm like, no, but they're actually doing this to kids and human trafficking, and the president of Haiti is calling out the Clinton Foundation, and, you know, there's missing children and missing money. And then there was, like, you know, those, what's that fellow's name? The Lolita Express with the Clintons, and they released all of that camera footage of, like, kill rooms and people chained up and stuff, and then miraculously, days later, the island caught fire. You heard about all that? We were talking about that at Dark Ducks today.
Jeffrey Epstein, yeah.
Epstein, yeah.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. I didn't know his because I saw, like, a video where they were, like, they had that print screen from the Instagram, and then, you know, after they put that shit on Reddit, they made the Instagram account private, just like the Podestas did with the whole Pizzagate thing, and just like after the Sarah Silverman thing, Patton Oswalt on Twitter was like, "I'm a proud pedophile." Then he closed his Twitter account. You know, it's like that's what they do. They're like, "Oh shit, damage control. You know, purge." And then, but like, boy, did that Epstein go the extra mile and burn his damn island to the ground. Unbelievable. But yeah, people are like cool with it. People are like, "Yeah, that's crazy." You know, now it's happening less and less. I find that more and more people are like, "Oh shit, you know, I called you crazy last year, but then I saw this thing." You know, and Dark Docs is really helping, because Dark Docs is a place where you can say, it is a short domain, go to darkdocs.com, boom. You don't have to sign up for shit. You don't have to you don't have to give your email. It's not a subscription. There's no gate. The gate is not only unlocked, the gate is not there. There is no gatekeeper. There is just like, here are you know, the treasure boxes, neatly labeled, and you can have it. It's not even like, okay, you can look at it, this is a library, and then you can't take it with you, and you can't, it's not a museum where you can't breathe on it the wrong way, you have to wear gloves. No, you can have a duplicate copy of the file, and now you can share it with people, and we're going to start burning DVDs of a lot of this stuff and just giving it away in person. Yeah. And if you want to order it online, you know, just pay for the shipping and the cost of, I mean, with Kunaki.com, that's who we use out of Nevada, you can burn a DVD with like a case, and it's shrink wrapped, and there's like a color cover, spine, back cover, even like a full color like insert on the inside of the DVD for $1.10 a copy, from 1 to 5 copies, and then nationwide shipping. It comes out to be about $12 and some change for 5 copies of anything. And you know, if you do more than 5, the price jumps up, and then, you know, as you buy more and more, there's bulk pricing. But pretty much what they're made for, and this is CDs or DVDs or whatever, you can have a combination of things. As long as you have 1 to 5, it's $1.10, you know, per CD, jewel case, or DVD with a DVD case, and we can send them out anywhere. So you send me like $15, I can send you like 5 copies of one thing, or like 5 different things, you know, whatever. And really, I mean, I'll make like $2 or $3, and it is, you know, we just want this stuff to get out there, you know. And you know, we have the files, and also this gives you the ability, when you download the files, you have the MP4 file, you can log on to Kunaki.com and, you know, make DVDs yourself too, you know. And the good thing about Alex Jones, you know, one of the few still good saving grace things about him is he still has the disposition of like, share those movies for free. We're not going to come after you, you know, for copyright infringement, or, you know, trying to make money off of what we made. Like, he still wants In-Game, Terror Storm, all of the police state films 1 through 4. What else? You know, Dark Secrets Led, Bohemian Grove, Order of Death, Matrix of Evil, which has some really great interviews with Ron Paul, Cynthia McKinney, Ralph Nader, Dennis Kucinich, all around, you know, that, you know, Obama-McCain election. I believe that was 2008. No, that was before. But, you know, all those films are, you know, just packed full of like great, like, to me, it has nothing. It has like 10% to do with Alex Jones and 90% to do with American history, where you have all these congressmen, senators, activists. You know, Jesse Ventura's in them. You have you know, Joe Rogan back in the old days, Doug Stanhope, KRS-One, you know, and all these like famous people that, you know, are on board, you know, with 9/11 being a false flag operation, with the Bohemian Grove existing, these occult groups, Skull and Bones, and all that stuff being real. And it blows my mind that it's been decades of this stuff being in the open source, you know, free for anyone to see, and yet so many people have never heard of this stuff, never seen it, just have no idea. It blows my mind that this stuff has been out there and been literally given away on street corners, syndicated and shared, and it's on YouTube, it's on Facebook, it's still there. I was wondering when when Alex Jones was purged from all the social media, I was like, are his films still on YouTube? Because I know that there's this one channel, shout out to Change.channel, and he's had the Obama Deception and Invisible Empire, which was a great film, Loose Change, all the Loose Change. He's had all of those films in their entirety, now have millions and millions of hits on YouTube. And what surprises me is that they deplatformed Alex Jones, but they did not deplatform his content. And all of the, we're talking about at this point hundreds of thousands, if not millions of hours of, the Alex Jones Show, all of those 4-hour daily broadcasts that, on prisonplanet.tv, that if you were a subscriber, like $5 a month, you could download the MP4, and a lot of us would, we would then upload it straight to YouTube. That's all still on YouTube. So I'm like, how are you guys, how is he deplatformed if decades of...
How is that possible?
That's what I think. I guess they haven't algorithmically gone through and blocked all of his stuff yet, but they're probably working
on it later. Maybe they'll do it later, but why? But if they take down his whole site, wouldn't that take down everything?
No, because it's like if they take down darkdocs.com, which they already have once, we still had our YouTube channel. And because when you when you upload things to YouTube, now that's on YouTube.com's server. It's on their stuff, and then you have to go to YouTube.com, and then you have a URL for that video, and then if you embed it elsewhere, it's just it's pretty much like an iframe window into, or JavaScript or whatever, they used to be iframes, now I think they're Java. But some programming language pointing back to YouTube.com. So if YouTube goes down, all of the videos that are embedded on other websites aren't going to work. That's how that works. So they can take down Infowars.com, for whatever reason, and it's mirrored essentially. On those other websites. And then same goes for Dark Docs, where if they take down our YouTube channel, well, we have all of, we built Dark Docs planning for all of our social media to be deplatformed, and that's why you're able to just go to our site and download directly. It's not like a torrent. It's not some third-party thing. It's actually full transparency where it's the URL is literally just a subdirectory of a subdirectory within our stuff. And so, but if they take us down, that's why we not joke on every page of the site, get this before you can't, because we are pretty much expecting with what we're doing, just like WikiLeaks, and a lot of things, to be taken down from time to time. We're also, starting to offer, and we're going to be a bit more public about it moving forward. For right now, for $150, we're offering a 1 terabyte hard drive that is literally me dragging our entire website with all of the files. And the website itself, so all the pages, all of the back-end stuff, we're doing it in a way that it's somewhat encrypted, where you can, pretty much once you get this terabyte hard drive, you have darkdocs.com. Like you have it. You know, it's like it's a time capsule from that moment in time from when I dragged it over. You know, because we're always adding new stuff. So you know, it's impossible for you to have like, you know, a growing copy of Dark Docs, but you have a slice in time of it where if for whatever reason we go down, or even before we go down, you could get some domain or have like, you know, like gregfernandezjr.com/darkdocs, and then go ahead and upload to your FTP our site. That boom, that will be a moment in time. This was Dark Docs on this date, this year, and all of the files, all the thumbnails will work, and you can download all the files from that moment. You know, which a lot of it.
I'm going to create that link.
Awesome.
Right.
Yeah, I'll definitely, you know, I mean, I don't have to, you know, send you something. I trust you enough. I can give you creds, and then you can just, you know, go into FTP and just download Dark Docs, and then just upload it to yours, and then boom, it's mirrored, you know, so you'll have, you know, a section of your site already programmed with everything that you're going to have. Conspiracy of Silence, all of the Pizzagate films, the Franklin cover-up PDF, all the Alex Jones films, all of the you know, the Dark Doc stuff we've done so far, and you know, in all the sections, the site exactly how it is now. And the more people do this, you know, it's like cancer, you know, in a good way, you know, where you know, they can't, if they pull Dark Docs, oh, there's another mirror. We got the idea from WikiLeaks, where they've always had kind of like a rootkit where you could download a zip folder and then upload it and extract it to your server, and then boom, you have, you know, a timestamp from WikiLeaks, you know, with all the Clinton emails, all the Podesta emails, all the you know, all the leaks throughout time up until that date. You know, and we love WikiLeaks and what they've done. Again, but like, we feel that the wiki format is not user friendly. People go to Wikipedia or any wiki, and they're just like, you know, you have this like search bar at the top, and it's just a bunch of texts and maybe an image here or there, and you know, you just kind of click through a rabbit hole of stuff. You know, where, I mean, I don't know, I guess I'm a little spoiled. I was always that guy at Federal Jack that I was like, we gotta have thumbnails. Like, I don't want to click on a text link. You know, I don't want to read a bunch of stuff. You know, that sounds really shitty, and it is. You know, like, I haven't read that many, like, I don't read nonfiction. I mean, I don't read fiction books. I just don't do it. I'm like, I don't have time to sit around and read some fake thing that some author wrote. You know, I maybe read one or two Stephen King novels, and they actually like engaged me. You know, I've probably read like a dozen or so, you know, works of fiction. You know, the Odyssey and you know, different, you know, kind of classic, you know, epic novels and things like that. And I get it. You know, I read the Canterbury Tales, Grendel, you know, Beowulf, all that kind of stuff. But you know, I've always been like more of like a true crime. You know, that's why when I read the Franklin cover-up for the first time, I'm like, holy crap. You know, this is real. It's engaging. It's making me sweat. It's making me, you know, what do we do now? What can we do? You know, kind of stuff. Of course, Behold a Pale Horse from William Cooper. None Dare Call It Conspiracy. You know, again, like, those are the first things I've always made it a point to have on darkdocs.com, have on you know, Sacred Owls, have on Federal Jack, because, you know, that's the real bread and butter. But I find even more engaging than that, and especially, I mean, I'm 35. I find, you know, the people in their 20s and now in their teens, they engage a lot more with, you know, why is Netflix and Amazon and Hulu, why is this so successful? It's successful because people like to, you know, pretty much be spoon-fed and entertained, you know, unfortunately, but we can use that to our advantage, you know, and that's why we've really taken it, you know, into multimedia, where, You know, we're working on more documentaries. We're working on taking a lot of the old stuff and re-editing it, you know, kind of trimming the fat. We're working on a Dark Docs DVD that is pretty much going to be like an info bomb. We can fit 4 hours of HD video on these DVDs. So we're going to take 4 hours and be like, all right, what's like the most hard-hitting, no bullshit? You know, if you were a salesman and you walked in with a briefcase to a sales meeting and you were trying to sell, you know, that this stuff is real and that it is a threat, and have a call to action. Like if you were to like remake Zeitgeist, you know, if you were to remake Loose Change, but it's not just about 9/11. It's not just about, and Zeitgeist was like the first thing where like it was 9/11, but it was also the Federal Reserve. It was also about like solar Piscean personifications of solar deities and how throughout time religions have been adopting paganism and things into their.
The whole thing, though. I mean, but isn't that the whole thing where like you don't have to sell truth? You know, if you're just looking at the facts, looking at data, you don't have to sell that. If you can create a platform where people can access that data, people will see that data, right? And they'll see the truthful data and.
Yeah, I mean, ideally and theoretically, you would think so, but I mean, again, like doing this for I'd say close to 20 years now. Geesh, I have found that you know, that's what I thought at first. Like, oh, we're gonna make Federal Jack, and all this information is gonna be there, and we're gonna save the world. You know, like, and then you know, there's so many sites like that, and that's just not the case. And even with Dark Docs, I find it's engaging more people, and it's something that like they can just go and download something, and like now it's on their phone or on their device, and they can watch it whenever, and then share it with people. Share the links and things like that, and that's true of some people, but not everyone's the same. I feel that you know, with this DVD, we're going to edit. You know, we have already like thousands of hours of stuff, but you know, realistically, about 60% of it's unnecessary. It's kind of it's unnecessary to kind of, you know, be a crash course, get someone that thinks that Pizzagate is fake news and that the Clintons are not bad people and that there is no New World Order and that, you know, everything that Alex Jones says is false. There's a lot of people like that, but I believe that there is there's like almost like when you're playing Mortal Kombat, there's a combo that can just like give you flawless victory no matter what they do, you know. And I honestly believe that with all the information, between the images, between the video clips, between the PDFs, between you know, all the stuff that Sacred Owls has been editing into our projections and our music videos, being able to have a 4-hour DVD where you just pop the thing in, there's no menu or anything, it just like starts and it hits you in the face and you can't stop watching until it's done, and it's going to haunt you, it's going to shock you. There's going to be you know, text on the screen every now and then where like a claim is made, and then it has a URL to read the full PDF. Kind of like what we did in Tales of Terror, where like on the first page you read this terrible thing, and it's like, you know, please go to this link to download the full story and, you know, and more resources, watch Conspiracy of Silence. So it's all kind of interconnected, and, you know, we might even, you know, QR codes are kind of like old and passe, but if we can have something where you can hit pause and just scan something with your phone and then boom, it's like, we want to make it as easy as possible where every claim that we're making, you can fact check, with anybody and find that like, okay, and then it's like on Snopes it's like, oh, fact check false. Why is it fact check false? And and then again, who are they working for? And because of some of the things that some people will like put in the comments like, oh, Snopes.com, this is a fake thing. Like one the other day was someone was talking about a U.S. patent for facial recognition software with Snapchat filters, like those Snapchat filters that you have like birds flying around your head or whatever, but it's actually pinpointing its facial recognition software. And of course, you have similar things now being used on Facebook Live and on Instagram. And then someone was like, no, Snopes says that that's false, and I'm like, I'll click on the Snopes thing, I'll read what they're saying, and I thought it was interesting that they were like, no, fact check false. There is a patent, and that is the patent number. However, there is no evidence that it is part of a database being used by intelligence agencies. So I think it's really loosey-goosey and very shisty how Snopes is like, where you'll search something and then the article will come up, there'll be the picture or the meme or whatever, and then there'll be a small paragraph, and then there'll either be a green check mark, true, or a red X, false, and then there'll be a whole article underneath it with links and stuff, and it is very thoughtfully put together, but nobody reads the whole article or anything. Most people don't even, they just read the headline and share the article, and I'm guilty of it from time to time, but it's really more I'll share it so people can discuss it, and then I can go and read it later. I'm almost like, putting a bookmark. I use my Facebook like a bookmark, and I'll be like, oh, I don't have time to read all this shit right now. I got to go do something. I'm just fucking dicking around in a lobby of something, I have an appointment or something. But I'll read it later, and when people are like outraged in the comments, I'll definitely read it later. I'll read everyone's comments and kind of chime in and stuff, and that way I'm almost like sending it to the lab, and then I'll be like, all right, so what is all this about now? And it's very helpful to me, and I've been criticized by it, but I always remind people, like, if I share something, it doesn't mean it's gospel. It means it caught my eye, it raised my eyebrow, and I'm going to look at it later. Or unless when I just share something, sometimes I'll post something and I'll write like a statement about it, and then that's when I actually read the thing and I have an opinion about it. So like that whole Snopes thing. It's very misleading because like things that are actually true, there is a U.S. patent for that, and it is for facial recognition and this and that. They still made it fact check false because they're like, oh, well, there's no hard evidence that it's being used by U.S. government intelligence agencies.
But is Snopes credible? Like, really, come on. They're really not credible, right?
Team, everyone's like, oh, they're Soros funded, and that whole Soros thing, like, I don't know. He probably is like a scumbag, behind a lot of stuff. And they say he's funding Antifa, he's funding Black. At the end of the day, Snopes is not credible. Snopes is as credible as because they would be as credible as we would be if we made Snopes. And I think that's a fair statement where we're intelligent people. We've been researching this stuff for a long time. We're academics. We have a background in this. And we've paid our dues that, like, if we made Snopes.com, I would say we'd be as credible because we've been doing this for decades at this point. And, and again, they're just a husband and wife team. They don't even have a degree in journalism or anything, intelligence, nothing. Like, I think one of them has like an English PhD or something. Like, that's okay. You know how to write, good, literature, good, but that doesn't make you an international fact-checking expert, and that's how people are treating them. They're treating them as the gospel, that they're the end-all, like, I'm not arrogant enough to make a site like Snopes.com where I'm like, true, false. You know, we're truth seekers. You know, and I think that's what keeps us honest. We're open-minded, and something that we might have a hard stance on, it's kind of like prove me wrong. You know, and I'm not being a dick. I encourage you. If you have heart, and I always tell people, they're like, oh, that's fake news. Oh, that's cool. Prove me wrong. You got links? I'll read them. You know, you think, you know, you're calling bullshit on me? You got to back it up. You know, because when I call bullshit on people, that's why I made Dark Docs, to, you know, conveniently be like, all right, well, like, here's this document, and it's the same thing like Alex Jones did with InfoWars. He made InfoWars being like, you know, I have the documents, you know, go to this, you know, go to these links, but he kind of went off the rails and, you know, took a little bit too much liberty with things where, you know, we'll present what we found, and we don't even editorialize it, and then that's kind of the goal. You know, we'll have like our blog section of Dark Docs and stuff, and like, you know, we'll have editorials on Sacred Owls and reviews of different things, but again, those are opinion pieces. But the Dark Docs is, we have original content, you know, where we're talking about things, but for the most part, someone else made the documentary. You can watch it and kind of take or leave, you know. Like, the world is a tapestry of true, false, and, you know, question mark, you know, stuff that's kind of in the middle. You know, and it's hard to fact check everything in the world. All we have to do is just kind of keep searching and researching, and as we come across things, then that's a whole other thing that we're talking about, you know. And
exactly. Hey, can we talk about Bohemian Grove 2018?
Absolutely. What exactly? The fact is, you know, two of the members of Sacred Owls and their dog, and you two, and that was it. Did anyone else show up before we got there?
No. That was it.
and last year you had like what, 5 or 6 people that showed up?
We average about, with us, maybe there's 3 to 4 people with us, sometimes 5. Past couple years it's been, you know, 2 of us or 3 of us. And then you always get random people just coming, which is awesome, which is very encouraged. Then you got sketchy people that live in the neighborhood. Very interesting. And then you got the Grove themselves that come out and interrogate us in their own quaint little ways, you know.
Now, usually from the videos I've seen, which are amazing, you know, over the years that you guys shoot, it's usually like an employee on a golf cart that's kind of just like, all right, well, we just don't want any trouble, don't heckle the you know, the employees. They're like, they've even told you guys, like, I don't care if you heckle the members, just don't heckle the employees, because they're kids that are just, you know, they're in, you know, high school or college, they're just trying to make a buck so they can get a beer.
We gotta protect the children, right?
Yeah, it's funny. You know, we got to protect the children. That's funny coming from them. And I find
it really is.
You know, very well composed and very you know, gentlemanly with them, which is very slick. I mean, I love you guys' operation and the way you operate, and I think that's why you've been able to have very little resistance doing this every year.
Yeah, you know, some years are really interesting because so one year they came out and they offered us donuts. We had a large group there that year, and considering, I don't know how many, maybe 6 of us. And then, you know, some other protesters that we didn't know, they were there off and on. But this day they come out and they gave us a big box of donuts. And as soon as we received them, they started to back away, and the branch right above them broke. And it was like coming down, crashing on top of them. It was pretty entertaining. It's one of my funniest memories.
Very odd. Yeah, I remember in the video you guys were joking about, like, yeah, these are probably poisoned, and I think it's great, and believe me, I mean, you know, in our federal Jack days when we actually like did organize protest, we did a pretty big in the Fed protest at the Federal Reserve branch of Miami in Doral, Florida, down the street from Florida International University, where we had our student organization for Federal Jack Open Source Intelligence, OSINT, and it's a big pain in the ass to get people to come out and do this, because, I mean, you know, first of all, getting people to take time out of their schedule and actually show up to do anything, I mean, is quite a chore. Even like, come to our free punk rock show and get a free CD. Like, you know, you have to like offer them all, okay, there's free food, you know, and we got a keg of beer, you know, like, and even that's kind of like pulling teeth sometimes. And, you know, but so to be like, yeah, no, we're fighting the globalists, you know, the people that run all the governments, and all of the law enforcement agencies, and you know, the Army and the Navy and the Marines, and no, yeah, we're fighting that, you know. And I know you guys aren't actually fighting, you know, the military, but it's like the people behind the curtain. This is the real deal. This is the boss fight, you know. And people are like, you know, no matter how badass, you know, jive talking they are, they're scared shitless. They're not as brave, in my opinion, as you and, you know, as us, that, you know, we're willing to actually go there and actually investigate and talk to people and put ourselves out there, have them see our faces. And it's nerve-wracking, and then a lot of people worry, like, oh, and they're following me now, and you know, it's pretty funny how like now we have our buddy from the Grove that just kind of popped up out of nowhere that's talking to us, and you know, he's been bringing us some pretty cool intel, and I believe he's legit. I believe he's a freedom fighter, but you know, this really just brings, you know, very odd people out of the woodwork, and you know, we do have to be careful who we align ourselves with, who we give what information to. You know, we have families, we have friends, like, you know, we have people we care about, things that we care about, you know, and but at the same time, you know, we're putting ourselves out there, you know, for the betterment of everybody. And I personally am of the opinion that the more you put yourself out there, the more of a public face you have, there is a sort of protection, you know, where it's not that easy. It's easy for them, but it's not that easy, and there's a lot of stakes, and you have to be very careful in killing someone that, you know, that's a whistleblower. They do it all the time, but I'm sure that there's a lot of people that they don't go after because there's always bigger fish to fry. But at the same time, you don't want to be too unknown, because then no one will notice when you go missing. Like, if they killed me, it would be kind of like a big red flag, and it would martyr me to a certain extent, where like, holy shit, they killed the guy from Sacred Owls. It's all true. You know, that's why they're not going to kill Alex Jones. You know, they're trying to ridicule him. They're trying to, you know, minimize his movement, make him seem like a fool. You know, and that wasn't working, and he was getting more and more popular. So they had to deplatform him. They had to spank him, and say that because his ideas are dangerous. So now he's not a fool anymore.
But now they're compromising him. But now they're compromising him back to that point where they could kill him now, and people, you know, half of the people would take him seriously, and half of the people probably wouldn't, because they don't have time, and because maybe because he is full of crap, so maybe they won't take him seriously. Starting to see the same program with so many different people. With Alex Jones, it is a big one, because I do go back and forth where I think, man, there's something wrong, there's something shady here, and I don't trust him. But why would I trust him? Why would I ever trust anybody? You know, I don't trust anybody that I just listen to. It's just, okay, well, this person says this, you know, Alex Jones says this person says that. If it's true, then it's true. If it's not, then it's not. If they're lying, then that's when I say that they're not, you know, I'm just not going to take them seriously.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, and I've definitely gone back a lot with Jones, and you know, I'm back. I mean, if you were talking to me like a month ago, I'm like, nah, fuck it, he's a shill. You know, he's control opposition. I'm done.
I gotta say, like, yeah, if it wasn't for him and it wasn't for the whole Moloch thing, you know, the video is friggin' awesome, and I'm really happy it's out there because it turned me on to it. But there's no way in hell am I gonna say that's Moloch from everything I've heard from members and employees and workers and family members, and so, you know, I'm not going to subscribe to that. And I right? And, you know, if he didn't say that and he just showed the film, we would have thousands and thousands of people on our side every July. You know, there's a lot of ways to protest. There's a lot of ways to demonstrate. But
that blows my mind. Like, it's hard for me to believe that, like, because I mean, I don't see what the problem is. You know, whether it's Moloch or the Owl of you know, Alexandria. You know.
Well, the problem is well, Mary Moore and the people protesting for 30, 40 years, whatever it was, up until 2012, past 2012, they're like, nah, fuck it, we're out of here, because all these Alex Jones idiots are out here. This, you know, I'm paraphrasing. You know, they go and they tell newspapers, because they go to her for questions about the growth, and they tell newspapers, no, we're not supporting any protests happening at the Grove now, because those are conservative groups, those are conspiracy theorists. Those people are, you know, they're not right in the head. You know, it's futile for us to go and use our efforts and all that. They're still researching. They're still getting awesome research. And, I mean, they came up with, you know, in 2017, Donald Rumsfeld's doing campfire chat. You know, 2017, David Keith went for the case of climate engineering. I mean, the top geoengineer guy. You know, they get all this information, but then they call off the protests, and so we got nothing. We're standing there, we're like small talking these guys, you know. Hey, nice cigar you got there, buddy. You know, it should be the opposite, you know.
I have a real hard time, like, with, I mean, are they the ones that you sent me that stuff that they were doing the resurrection of care, or is that a different group?
That is the same group, and I have the hard time with them too. I'm not saying they're awesome at all. You know, I'd love to actually work with some of these researchers, because they got amazing abilities to gather resources, but they're totally gatekeeping this entire thing.
Yes. Like, they have to be like I honestly believe that the more I look into these guys, I mean, the fact that they're like white magic versus black magic, they're all occults. And that's what they talk about in Order of Death from Alex Jones. That, I mean, first of all, they can't call anybody conspiracy theorists when, you know, first of all, it's a CIA term coined after the Warren Commission by the CIA about anyone talking about the JFK assassination. So, fuck you if you call anyone a conspiracy theorist, because you are clearly using CIA mockingbird tactics, and you're acting like a fucking shill whether you know it or not. That being said, there is a conspiracy that these white magic Wiccans, or whatever they want to call themselves, are clearly admitting and researching and devoting their lives. A conspiracy is just a couple of people getting together and committing a crime. Now, that's what the Bohemian Grove is doing. Behind closed doors, they are doing things that are in violation of U.S. laws. Whether or not you're talking about sacrificing children, I'm talking about you're not, according to the Logan Act and other laws, you're not supposed to be an elected official, going to secret societies, and that's what JFK was speaking out against, and that's why he was killed, amongst other reasons. That we as a country are opposed to secret societies, secret proceedings. And these lakeside chats, they're talking about policy. They're talking about business. They are actually conducting business behind closed doors, elected officials with people who are not elected officials, and they're being able to sway influence that is affecting citizens, taxpayers, and constituents.
Can I read a portion of Nixon's 67 Grove Lakeside chat? Because that's exactly what you're saying.
Sure.
Now, I'm not going to do it in a Nixon voice because that would be ridiculous. But I am looking for a Nixon impersonator, if you know any. All right. But let us take a longer view. With the advance of transportation and communications so vividly described by other lakeside speakers, the world by the end of this century will be a great city. As the world becomes smaller, the differences between rich and poor will appear much larger. The 3 billion people living in the less advanced areas of the world will not tolerate permanent second-class economic status. For example, at that time, the people of the United States will have a per capita income 10 times as large as that of our closest friends and neighbors in Latin America. The time to diffuse this potentially explosive situation is now. That was 1967.
Yeah, is that one of the ones you posted today?
Yeah, I got that. I got the full speech from the National Archives. It took like 1 minute to find. I don't know why the hell that's not just out there. From what I understand, also the Mary Moore Research Center that blocks the protests, she said in some interview I was listening to recently that they only have 2 known examples of full speeches given at Lakeside Chats. One actually not full. One is a partial speech given by Henry Kissinger. And then the other one, which is a full speech that she's pretty happy she's got, is Caspar Weinberger in the 80s. But I went, and it took me 2 minutes, and I found it, and it's Richard Nixon talking about how, well, at the end of this century, the world's going to be so, connected, referencing previous speakers at the Lakeside Chat. This is 1967. So they engineered everything we're in today. They planned it. That's pretty fucked up.
Oh, right, because when you look at who the members throughout the generations of the Bohemian Grove are, it's not just old politicians. It is that's really just a corner. It's just a pillar, a leg of the table. The other major leg is media moguls, people that are executives for newspapers, television networks, film producers, and people who own production companies. And then you have actors and musicians, like the guys from Spinal Tap, apologists of the Grove, who actually made the film, which was never released. I would love to finally see it. Teddy Bear's Picnic, where instead of an owl, it's a pelican. Instead of care, it's time. And two employees of the Grove are going to blow it wide open, and they're going to film the ceremony just like Alex Jones did. And these are I believe that Kevin Spacey, with House of Cards, is another part of this where, again, it's hidden in plain sight. Also, you have Eyes Wide Shut, Stanley Kubrick, which, there's now several documentaries and even a film with Ron Perlman from Netflix where it's talking about Stanley Kubrick being hired by the U.S. government in the space race to film the moon landing. And then that launched that whole conspiracy of, did we ever go to the moon? Or, which something that I think is a little bit more feasible is maybe we did fake a moon landing just in case we didn't make it. And then maybe we released that film in order to win the space race against the Russians, and then maybe we did go there later. And then it launched the whole other disinformation campaign of, no, Stanley Kubrick did that because, in fact, we are on the flat Earth and we are inside of the firmament, and we can't leave the Earth because there's a big dome around us and we can't go to space. The whole solar system and all that is fake news. And God, there's so many flat Earthers. It's unbelievable. But anyways, and that was a tangent. So then what did he do later? Well, he made Clockwork Orange, which, of course, is very clearly about MK Ultra and mind control, ultra-violence, ultra-violent society. And then, of course, his last film is Eyes Wide Shut, which is what I believe was his manifesto about the Rothschilds, about these spirit cooking style occult ritual abuse, human sacrifice film, snuff films, and all wearing robes and yada yada. And then what I found really interesting researching that recently was that, of course, he died very mysteriously before the film was ever released, right after it was done production, and there was a lot of hemming and hawing about how it was going to be done. The thing was kind of in production for decades, not actually in production, but he had the idea back in the 80s, and then he kept shelving it because he kept refining it. This was his masterpiece, to blow the lid off of what these people are doing. And of course, I think it's very funny that they get Tom Cruise, which is a Scientologist, very erratic character, and then Nicole Kidman, who her father is into this Hollywood occult ritual stuff also, very openly. And there's footage of Nicole Kidman hanging out with Ashton Kutcher's ex-wife, whatever her name, I forget, Demi Moore. And we actually just released an old video of Nicole Kidman and Demi Moore back when they were 19 or so, and she's at a birthday party for this 15-year-old kid that was on General Hospital with her at the time, and she's making out with this 15-year-old. She's a 19-year-old, and she's multiple time, just really making out with this 15-year-olds, while Nicole Kidman is singing Over the Rainbow. Now that's really interesting too, because in Eyes Wide Shut, the rainbow is the costume shop where they have a young girl that is the store owner's daughter who is being pimped out, and that's where you get the masks to go to these galas and things like that. I've been actually researching Eyes Wide Shut a lot, and in fact, Sacred Owls has a song called Eyes Wide Shut that's going to be on our new album, Beware, Take Care, and about all of this, because it's all connected. And the big mystery about Eyes Wide Shut is there are 20 minutes of that film that no one has ever seen. And there's a lot of theories on YouTube about what that 20 minutes was. And one of the most compelling arguments I've found is at the end of the film, after every, at the end of the film as we know it, is after all this crazy shit happens, Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman get away. And by the way, her name is Alice, going down the rabbit hole, and all of the, Alice in Wonderland is a big part of Monarch programming and MK Ultra. Bill, Tom Cruise's character, they get away, and they're with their daughter in this toy store, and there's a lot of very strange things in this toy store. If you actually look through it, we're gonna put up a video that kind of deconstructs what's going on here, and then you'll notice that the very last scene of the film, the daughter walks away with two men that you actually see those two men at the mansion the first time that Tom Cruise's character goes in, when he's not invited to that party, which, by the way, is a Rothschild mansion. It's also used in a couple of other films, but it's an actual Rothschild mansion. And so the daughter walks away with these two men that are part of the order, and then they cut away to Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman talking about how they just want their lives to be normal and this and that, and then the film ends. It's a very odd ending, doesn't make any sense, and you were just like, oh, it was just a crazy thing they went through. There's a lot of theories that the last 20 minutes of the film is actually the daughter is taken by the men, and then they do, they rape her and have an occult ritual sacrifice, with the robes in front, at Bohemian Grove, essentially, where they have an actual human sacrifice, just like in the Franklin cover-up in Conspiracy of Silence.
Of
course,
the movie Mother. It's kind of like in the
seen that
film Mother. Have you ever seen that?
Yeah, I heard you got to see that one.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Really? But they actually show it in Mother, or no?
Oh, I haven't seen the movie, but yeah.
No, I haven't seen it either. You just heard, I don't know the synopsis or anything. I got to check it out. Some horror.
They kill a baby.
Okay.
That's it. I mean, that's.
As far as you know, yeah, I heard it's a very disturbing film. Check that out. But yeah, so and I think and it makes sense because that would make Eyes Wide Shut make sense. They take the daughter, and then probably they try to get their daughter back, but also it's very similar. Also, when you look at the Pizzagate documentary, they show footage of Joe Biden, and you have all these DC politicians and sycophants bringing their daughters and children to go take pictures with Joe Biden, and he's grabbing on them and whispering in their ear and playing with their hair and kind of kissing their necks. It's fucking creepy as hell. And you have the parents just standing there and taking it. And I watch 10 minutes of just picture after picture, and he's doing the same shit with all of it, and you kind of hear him whispering things in the daughter's ears, oh, how old are you? Oh, you're 17. That's too old. I'm not interested. Ah ha 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 ha. And then You know, the younger girls like, oh, I'd love to take you home with me, and oh, you know what my dad always told me? Take care of Papa, and just fucking, who the fuck says that stuff? It's unbelievable. If I took my kid to, oh, it's the vice president, let's take a picture with, it's a big deal, and I heard him say that shit, I would stick a knife in his fucking throat in front of everybody, and that should be the norm.
Yeah,
that should be the norm.
People need to know that. People need to know that that is not going to be tolerated. That we're not going to put up with that stuff.
Exactly.
The real problem, and this is why I know we've privately talked about this, but this is why it's not a coincidence for me. Just in my view, it's not a coincidence that Donald Trump is our president, and all of a sudden, all these pedophiles are being called out, all this crap is happening. I do not believe it's a coincidence. I'm not saying Trump, waved the magic wand and all this crap happened, but I'm saying that I am so glad there are so many good human beings out there that are looking at the pedophiles, that are going after them, that are shining a light on the pedophiles.
Yes.
I want to help. There's so many people like me who have family members, who have, friends who have whatever, who have dealt with this stuff, and we've, tried to reach out to the authorities, and they didn't help. They didn't do anything. There are people out there, I mean, it is very important that people know that, you need to speak out. If something happened to you, it took us a long time for some of my family members to admit that something happened to them, because we couldn't help them. We couldn't help them until they were willing to say, yes, something happened. But even then, we were able to get the person out of that house, able to get them away from the person who was abusing them, but we weren't able to prosecute the person who was abusing them. So now I'm so happy to just see, there's a lot of people out there that are trying to, change that, but there's also a lot of people who are trying to discredit that by creating these false things, creating the false accusations, stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. There are a lot of people that are legitimately, through the channels of law enforcement, through the channels of government, doing this stuff. Here locally in Florida, we got this Sheriff Arpaio in Polk County, and he launched several years ago a campaign called Operation Guardians of Innocence, and they're doing stings of websites on the dark web and social media where they're catfishing pedophiles, and just like a lot of these pedophile vigilantes are doing in the UK and Canada, and a couple in the US, where they'll have a profile of a young girl and not even solicit, but if you have a little social experiment, and I've done this, doing social media marketing and stuff, where you make a fake profile just with a picture of a girl, nothing sexual or anything, just like a picture of like a girl under a tree reading a book, with like a sweater on and jeans, like nothing sexy about it, doesn't even have to be an attractive girl. You're going to get flooded with dick pics and just all kinds of despicable stuff in your DMs. I guarantee, within hours. It's unbelievable. I have them, and in fact, it's funny. Like I made these fake profiles. I was, in the social media marketing game. I had a website called FacebookLikeMe.com back in it was like 2010. And then after that, we branched out to all of the social media sites and had socialmediapromotion.us. At first, when I was just getting into the game, I was making fake profiles, and if you'd pay me, you know, a certain amount of money, I would like all, you know, your Facebook page. This was like when Facebook pages just kind of came out and stuff. And, you know, just for local businesses, because it was hard. It's like putting, you know, if you're out on the corner busking, you know, that's when like you play music on a street corner, you have your guitar case open. If you don't have any money in there, hours will go by and no one is going to give you money. However, if you you know, put like a buck and some change in there, be like, it's a psychology game where people are like, you know, someone else gave money, I should give I have a quarter, you know, and you got to kind of prime the jar, you know. So I would just go in and, like, you know, with these fake profiles, like stuff, and then over time, you know, people in other countries were like, hey, you know, for like $10 I can get you like 100, you know, likes, and then the prices kept going down. And, you know, I had different, you know, people. So I ended up having this distribution network where I'd get paid, and then I'd just outsource it to these guys. And, you know, you could have targeted likes, or for cheaper, like, you know, pennies on the dollar, you could just have like a bunch of fake, you know, accounts, or people overseas that are getting like, you know, fractions of a Bitcoin or whatever when that first came out and stuff, to, you know, just go on a page and just start liking stuff. And, you know, and I was on different networks, but, you know, once you get into that world, you start to see that like a lot of these like social network, you know, stuff have, you know, networks of, you know, sharing illegal snuff films and pedophilia and this and that, and like you'll get approached, you know, in one way or another, and these law enforcement agencies are using these same methods to target and nail pedophiles here in Florida in the past couple years, and they've been very successful. They've gotten employees at Lockheed Martin, employees at Disney and Universal Studios here, that, you know, in the school system, teachers, janitors, principals, and now they're starting. There's more. And that's the thing. I've been following the QAnon stuff, and I'm not convinced. But the more I follow it, the more I'm like, fuck, it might be possible that Donald Trump, whether he knows it or not, is part of a military, I believe what the allegations are is it's an Army intelligence branch coup. It's a part of a larger, like, you have the deep state, you know, which is what people call what used to be the Bush era shadow government. Now, and then they kept the same name when it got switched over to the Democrats with Obama and the Podestas and the Clintons and all that stuff. You know, but I really believe that those are two separate factions. You have your conservative deep state, and then you have your more left-leaning socialists, you know, New World Order deep state, where the conservatives, some of them are globalists, some of them aren't, and then you have the people on the left that I think that they're all globalists. And then you have military, you know, intelligence, where I actually believe that they're libertarians, but they are under the guise of Republicans because they know that the Libertarian Party is, you know, limp-wristed, like they're ineffectual. But a lot of the predictions from QAnon have been happening. I like that Donald Trump went to the United Nations last month, I believe, and I heard the whole speech. That, of course, the media, you know, which is a branch of the left deep state, you know, for the most part, with the exception of like Fox News, spun it as like the world is laughing at Donald Trump, but they didn't play the whole clip. They never play the whole clip. They just play the part that they plan on, you know, slamming and spinning to fit their narrative. But if you actually listen to the whole clip, which they have on the No Agenda show, noagendashow.com, I believe it was like 4 episodes ago, because they have it every Thursday and Sunday. They play the whole clip, and he's talking about, first, he's saying all the great things that he did in the past 2 years, and then someone says something, and then everyone starts laughing, and then that's when Trump's like, well, I didn't expect that response. But then he goes on to talk about, which none of the mainstream media aired at all, like this part of it, only the No Agenda shows, like, where I actually heard the whole clip, and he's talking about how it's un-American to support globalism, and he is going to fight tooth and nail to make sure that we maintain national sovereignty, and we are going to build the wall, and we are going to, protect our borders, and have hardcore immigration reform, and anybody that wants to take advantage of the U.S. in terms of trade deals is not going to be tolerated, and we're gonna have tariffs on anyone that tries to wrong us. And it was a hardcore pro liberty, pro Constitution, anti-New World Order message. And I don't care what you say about Donald Trump, that man right there at that moment has the biggest balls in American history, period, bar none. More than, we're talking about, Herbert Hoover, warning us about the military-industrial complex. I believe that was him. Or JFK talking about secret societies, trying to bring back the gold standard in the Federal Reserve System, that he got killed over, I'm pretty certain, among other things. And then you have that, and then also Trump, he was mentioning last year about bringing back the gold standard, backing away from the Fed, and then recently Yahoo.com had an article saying that the biggest threat to Donald Trump, is the Federal Reserve. Like they're the biggest threat to what he's trying to do. So when you put all those things together, it makes a compelling argument that he actually might be the real deal. He actually might, and I find it interesting, the parallels between Alex Jones and Trump, where if you are a flamboyant personality and you do things that are kind of outlandish, some people would say it discredits you. At the same time, here the media is, that can't stop talking about them. It's like the old saying, there's no such thing as bad press. Any press is good press, because, hey, you're being talked about. That's fame. That's power. Whether someone hates you or loves you, that fame is power. Charles Manson, Jim Jones, all these cult leaders and stuff, yeah, they're hated, they're despised, they're powerful. Adolf Hitler, all of these people that have done crazy, outlandish, hardcore things, it's power. And that's, now you have people like Alex Jones and Donald Trump that are actually doing good stuff. I mean, I don't care whether or not Alex Jones was invited to the Grove and acted like he snuck in, or if he actually snuck in. He made that film and put it out, and here we are decades later talking about it. You can't knock it. If Alex Jones is killed today or dies of natural causes, those millions of viewers are going to be galvanized, and he's going to be a martyr, and they are going to be weaponized against the New World Order. I mean, isn't that a life mission accomplished?